Check one, check two, since you know what to do. What's going on, family? Grace and peace, grace and peace, grace and peace. Happy. What's today? Wednesday? Today's Wednesday, day 23. Day 23. Listen, I told you, 5:05 in the AM. Told you we back to our 5 o'clock business. I ain't going front. I had to peel myself up out of the bed this morning. But nonetheless, we are here. Um, today we're going to be talking about, let me show you what we're going to be talking about today. Today, we're going to be talking about how to build simple sales funnel. How to build a simple sales funnel from content to customer. Here's why this is important. We've been talking about content, but the whole idea behind your content is to be able to start pushing people into, or inviting people, let me say it that way, inviting people into a place that you own, right? That you're able to then begin to, I'm going to say this word, indoctrinate them into your message, indoctrinate them into your approach, your process, your philosophy, right? And the solution ultimately, to surround them with all the information that they need in regards to the solution that you offer for their problem. Okay, you wanna here's how my brother Marcus Y. Rozier put it. When you're on social media, they're dating you, right? When they move off of social media into your space that you own, your funnel, right? Your back end, as we call it, now they've made a commitment to you, right? And so this funnel is what actually continues to help them to, or walk them through what he calls the what is called the buyer's journey, right? And so we're going to be talking about a very simple funnel, because here's the thing: content alone is not a marketing strategy. Okay, my Marcus said to me also, posting to social media alone is not a marketing strategy. Posting to social media is what you do after you have your strategy, right? And so building out a back end, building out a simple sales funnel on the back end of your content is how you're going to convert those viewers, that, or that attention, those eyeballs that land on your content. That's how you're going to convert them from simple, simply, I should say, scrolling and interacting with your content to becoming an actual customer. Okay, and this is what we want to talk about today, because again, the whole point of our content is not just to be posting content. It's so we can move those eyeballs and move that attention, or leverage, or move that attention to some place that we own, right? Because social media, we don't own it, right? And at the end of the day, if social media goes down and all of our clients are, and the only way that we can connect with our audience is via these social media platforms, we're in a very, very, very precarious situation, right? I hope that was the right word. It just came to my mind, so I think I used it in the right context. But anyway, if not, don't judge me. But we're in a really difficult situation if all of our attention is only on, or our audience is only on these social media platforms, and we're trying to build a business on just these social media platforms. We're going to be in trouble. Okay, so let's get into how you can build a simple sales funnel. Oh, but hold on. First of all, before we go into that, house cleaning. First and foremost, if you have been enjoying these lives, do me a huge favor. Subscribe to this channel, like, and also share this out. Let somebody else know that there's some value over here on Pop the Creatives page, right? Leave a comment. Let me know how you have, if any of the lives has resonated with you. What have you learned? What have you applied? What was an aha moment for you? Okay. And lastly, if you would like the slides that I use to make my presentations during the lives, if you would like those, have access to them, so that this way you can have them in your tool belt, and help in your tool chest, if you will, as something that you can continue to refer back to, then let me know in the comments, and I will create a space where I will house all of the 22 or 20, I guess 22 slides, slide presentations that I've created throughout our time together. Okay. All right. So there it is. That's the house cleaning. All right, let's get it. So building a simple sales funnel from content to customer. All right. Here we go. So you have an offer we talked about yesterday. So again, every single day is building on the day before. So your challenge yesterday or your homework yesterday was for you to come up with an offer, right? Or maybe you already have an offer. So if you have created an offer or you have an offer, you have an offer, okay, but nobody's buying it. All right. You post about it, but crickets. You don't know how to guide people from follower to customer. You may get to a point. You may get to a point where getting the followers, where you're creating this bomb content, where you're getting the followers, right? The followers are coming. They are hitting that follow button. Your following is growing. But followers, listen to me. Followers do not necessarily equate to revenue. Okay? Followers does not necessarily equate to revenue. And this is very important. I've come across and I've spoken to a lot of people, and even had the opportunity to be able to coach people where I had to redirect their attention. They connected with me because they were just simply worried about getting followers, right? Only for me to let them know, like, that's cool, but what's the strategy outside of that? Like why do you want the followers? Do you want the followers to get more visibility to your thing, to your, freebie, to your product, to your service, so then this way you can then move those people off of social media, move them from followers to clients? Or are you just thinking about the visibility? Are you just thinking about the followers? And quite a few of them were only focused, when I mentioned that other aspect of it, it was like it was like deer in headlights. They were just staring at me like, "Yo, what do you mean?" Like, I just want followers. Like, I want, you know what I mean? I want to open up the app, you know what I mean? And I want 10K, 20K. I want, you know what I mean? I want 150K followers. And so, but that's where the buck stopped. And so what I had to explain to them as well is the fact that you have people who have that type of follower count that's not making any money, right? They caught a wave. They might have hopped on a trend. They may have hopped on something that was popular, or talked about something that was popular at that particular point in time. They might have put some creative to it, and spun it in a certain way that was funny or entertaining or whatever have you, and it went crazy, and they got a whole bunch of followers because of that. But they have no strategy on how to monetize that. They have no strategy on how to leverage that attention, right? And that then also puts them in a very difficult spot, because if they amassed a large a number of followers because of, because they hopped on a trend, well, if you then don't do begin to create content within that same vein, then a lot of those people who came, they're not going to stick around, right? And so you have an influx of people, but you don't really know them, and a lot of them may not even be your ideal audience. So once you start to talk about your offer, they're going to start unfollowing. You know what I mean? Or once you start to actually teach, or you start to actually implement different elements of your content strategies, because it wasn't the entertaining, because it wasn't the trend, which they ultimately came for, right? They're not interested in anything else. So now you just have a bunch of spectators, not ideal audience, not your ideal audience. You have a bunch of eyeballs, you have a bunch of spectators, but they're not buyers, right? And so I following. So I say all that to say that we have to be careful not to chase followers, right? We want to chase. We don't want to chase followers. We want to zone in on attracting the right people, the right audience that is in need of our knowledge, expertise, and information, and ultimately the product or service that we offer, or the answer to their prayer and the solution to their problem. All right, cool. So that's why you may be hearing crickets, right? And so you might be struggling with guiding people from follower to customer. And so we're gonna get to the bottom of that today. All right. And hopefully you've been doing your work. Hopefully you've been doing your homework from day to day on these lives, because if so, then you're gonna be in prime position. You're gonna be head and shoulders above a lot, head and shoulders above a lot of people in regards to implementing a strategy that's going to move those people from followers to customers. All right. So here's the problem: you're asking people to buy too soon. Okay, you're asking people to buy too soon. You're skipping steps, and you don't have a funnel. Okay, you're asking people to buy too soon. You're skipping steps. You don't have a funnel. Okay, again, we have to be we got it. We have to be mindful that there's levels to this and there's strategy to everything, right? And this is why I've been really kind of slow walking and walking with you hand in hand up to this particular point in time. And it's taken me 23 days to even get to the monetization aspect of our content. It took me 23 days to get here. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because there's so many other elements and so many other levels that you have to apply, practice, tweak before you get to the monetization part, right? And now I'm not saying that you got to be posting free content for a year before you ask, but I remember back in the day, let me see, somewhere in the 2000s. But shout out to Gary V. The very first book that I bought on content marketing when I decided to get into this content thing was Jab 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 Right Hook by by Gary V. And the premise of the book was very 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 simple. His idea was you have to give, then ask. Give, then ask, right? And we talked about this a couple of days ago, a couple of lives ago. Leading with value, right? Leading with value and the importance of leading with value. But sometimes we, in our desperation, we may skip the value and go straight for the ask. Or to in alignment with the context of Gary V, we'll skip the jabbing, the giving, right? And we'll go straight into the right hook. We'll go straight to the ask, right? And then wonder why people scroll by. You know what I'm saying? And they don't buy because we didn't lead with value. We didn't jab first before to set ourselves up. Because if you know anything about boxing, oftentimes it's the jab that sets the boxer up for the power punch, or sets them up to be able to land whatever combination that they're trying to land in order to take advantage of the opponent, or even knock the opponent out, right? And win the fight. But jabbing gives them the distance. It buys them a little bit of time. It allows them to kind of see what's going on, right? And the jab is kind of how they test the water before they actually put their strategy into practice. And so with our content, by leading with value, those are the jabs, right? Those are the feelers. Those are the indicators that we're putting out there to see how our content is landing. Are people engaging with it, right? Is this something is this something that they're resonating with? And if so, if we're getting the feedback, if we're getting the engagement, and we're throwing out those jabs, and we're seeing that people are responding and saying thank you, or I needed this, or you're asking them to comment a particular keyword, and they're doing so, right? Whatever that happens to be, and you're seeing those positive markers, then boom, then okay, because of those jabs, all right, let me put my offer out there and see if they'll bite on that, since they're biting on this content, which is because, again, our content should be in alignment with what we offer anyway. We should not offer, what I'm saying, if our content is about apples, we need not, okay, be selling an offer that contains oranges. You know what I'm saying? Because that is not in alignment with what our content is marketing and promoting, what our messaging is, right? So the content that we are creating should be in alignment with our offer anyway, right? We should have our offer, and once we have our offer, our content. We talked about the sampling. We talked about sampling a couple lives ago, but this whole sampling idea that I was introduced to by my first business coach, Marcus. He he was like, if you have a course, if you have a book, whatever you happen to have, whatever product that you have, you take pieces of that and you create content around it, right? So this way, you are in essence, through those samples, through taking those pieces of your offer and creating content around it, you are sampling, you are giving, you are literally feeding your ideal audience little bit at a time, leading them to the full course meal, which is whatever the product or the service that you offer that's going to really solve their problem or provide sustenance for that hunger, right? So this is how we're moving. So we cannot skip steps. We cannot skip steps. You have to lead with value. You have to put that content out there for free, so to speak, as a sample, right? You have to throw that jab out there. And this is another reason why consistency is so key. Because if you're showing up consistent, then those jabs add up. Those things are like compound. They have the compound effect, right? Every jab builds on each other if you're consistent. And you get to a point where people are familiar with you. They're familiar with what you talk about. They're familiar with your subject matter. They fell in love with your knowledge, expertise, and information. They believe that you are the solution to their problem, right? And once they're there, then boom, you can hit them with that right hook. Like, oh, I got this right here. That's going to take you to a whole nother level, right? That's going to take you from where you are to where you want to be. Okay, so a lot of us are missing the mark there, missing the mark in regards to asking for the buy or asking for throwing that right hook way too early and skipping the value step. All right, so we want to slow down. Sometimes we got to slow down to speed up, and on top of that, we don't have a funnel on the back end of it. So even if in the rare case that maybe someone does want to buy from us, right, or does we're able to catch somebody with that hook, right? We don't have anything behind it, behind that piece of content. We don't have any strategy, no funnel to keep them around, right? To walk them through the buyer's journey to ultimately becoming a customer. Because just because they commented a keyword or just because they saw the content and they shoot you a DM, they have expressed interest. But once you send them whatever or send them the link, that doesn't necessarily mean, or if you only have a link, let me say it that way, if you only have a link specifically to a particular thing, that doesn't mean that they're going to buy it, right? What a sales funnel, a simple sales funnel helps you to do, it actually helps you to reinforce what you've already been talking about, reinforce the messaging that you've already been sharing in your content on the social media platforms, right? And it also helps you to be able to, you also bring them into a place where you're able to tell them about all of the additional things, the transformation, the success story, even in the sales funnel, it's in the sales funnel that you're able to also not only show them the transformation, but you're also able to show them what's in the offer, why they need this thing, right? But in the funnel, the beautiful thing about having a funnel is that they're not being distracted by the next post. They can't scroll out of the funnel and look at somebody else's content. Once they're in the funnel, they are surrounded by you. They're surrounded by your information. Like I talked about before, you are able to indoctrinate them with your messaging and reinforce the stuff that they already have come to know about you, right? This is going to fortify you in their mind, but also it's going to increase the probability of them purchasing the solution to their problem, the answer to their prayer, or AKA the product or service that you're offering. All right. Here's the truth. People don't buy from strangers. They buy from people they know, like, and trust. Know, like, and trust is a big deal. I can do a whole live on that, but I'm gonna try to be tame because I want to give you the rest of your day. A funnel builds that trust before you ask for the sale. Okay, again, you're not always going. In some cases you will, but you're not always going to have somebody who's going to go strictly from content to giving you cash. It may not. It's not going to happen that way often. So this funnel is super important because it allows you to, again, like I said before, it fortifies who you are in their mind. So the mere fact that they've even got that far off of social media into your sales funnel says that they are highly interested. They're more than just a viewer. They have come to know you. They've come to like you. They have come to believe in what it is that you say, right? And so they have decided to take a next step in commitment to you. And in this funnel is where you're able to solidify that, right? So let's say the content is the dating phase. Once they say yes to your offer and get into your sales funnel, that's an engagement, right? And this sales funnel is literally going to walk them to the altar. Does it make sense? All right, cool. All right, so a funnel builds that trust before you ask for the sale. So we're not skipping steps here. So here's the funnel: a step-by-step journey that takes someone from stranger to follower to subscriber to customer. Okay? Each step builds more trust. I meant to put more trust and moves them closer to buying. There's levels to this, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. There's levels to this, okay? So we have to be patient. We have to be patient with our strategy. We have to be patient. We have to be patient with we have to be realistic with ourselves, and we have to be patient with the process, okay? But once we've locked in this process, once we've locked in these simple sales funnels, and we've created our content around, we've created a content that speaks directly to or leads people. Again, jab, jab, jab. That's leading our people from post to post. And as we show up consistently with confidence and clarity, every post is going to be moving them closer and closer to that engagement and getting them into that funnel. All right. So each step builds trust and moves them closer to buying. All right. So ultimately, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get them to the altar. So here's a 4-step funnel: awareness. Okay. Awareness. I want you to screenshot this particular slide. This is a big deal. Very simple sales funnel. Number one, awareness. This is your free content. Your oh snap, you know what? I meant to actually put a picture of a funnel here so you can see what I'm saying. So I can illustrate it, but basically I'm gonna try to illustrate it with words as best I can. So awareness, your free content, reels, posts, videos. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna draw a picture. I'm gonna draw a picture. I think I got some paper right there. Hold on a second, so I can illustrate to you what a funnel is. All right, so this paper is super wrinkly. All right, but nonetheless, I'm gonna. So what? Yeah, we gonna learn today. We gonna learn today. All right, so. Oh no! I'm telling you, my pen don't work. All right. So, all right. So don't laugh. All right, you see the funnel? You see the funnel there? All right. So this is a funnel. All right. So at the top of this funnel, the largest part of this funnel is our awareness. Now, awareness in our awareness phase, we are my mic right. In our awareness phase, the very top of our funnel is the awareness phase. Awareness is your free content. So that is your reels. That's your carousel. Excuse me. That's your carousel post. That's your videos. That's your short form stuff, right? This is all about even this live that I'm doing right now, right? You may not know who I am at all. You might not know me from a hill of beans, but me doing these lives, I'm now building a catalog of work, a catalog of content that you can binge watch, right? So someone who is knowing me, who is coming to know me for the first time, this is not the first piece of content or the only piece of content that they can interact with to figure out whether or not I'm their guy, right? I have a whole catalog of lives. I got 23 days, my 23rd day. So they got 23 days of content, of long form content, by the way, not just short form, but of long form content that they can connect with me. All right. So awareness is simply that. You're just trying to say, hey, I'm over here. Right. So you're casting a very wide net when it comes to awareness. You're jabbing in the awareness stage. You're just basically trying to get the eyeballs and capture the attention of the people ultimately that you want to move down to the second part of your funnel and continue to move them down your funnel or their buyer's journey to, again, going from just being a casual follower or scroller or just interactor with your content to making the commitment. So taking them from dating to engagement to the altar. All right. The next phase is your interest. Your interest, okay? Your value, your lead magnet, your freebie email, okay? So this is what I like to call this is you asking them out on a date. So this freebie, it could be we talked about this a couple of days ago. So a freebie could be anything. It could be, um, you know, a list of 20 things that new moms need to know in order to be able to raise rock star children, right? The 15 things that you need to know to be able to get six pack abs in the next without fad diets and um fad diets and giving up all of the foods that you love in the next 21 days, right? That could be those are freebies, right? You may have a freebie or a lead magnet, right? You can have a let me see, I don't know, anything really. You know what I'm saying? You can have anything. You can have an ebook, right? You can have an ebook um how to the 7 steps of becoming a elite marketer, whatever that happens to be. Okay, whatever that happens to be, you can package that into a lead magnet, into a freebie. So this is free value that again has to be aligned with your ultimate offer, right? Or in some case they might call it your high ticket offer, right? But these could be free value, or it doesn't necessarily have to be a high ticket offer, but you can have something on the next tier. You can have something that's a $47, $47, 90, $97, you know what I'm saying? Whatever that happens to be. But again, we are hooking. Excuse me, we're leading with value. So we're sending these jabs. So you can so the next oh man the next in our funnel, let me write it down, is interest. Okay, so that's the next. All right, so that's the next rung. That's the next section of our funnel is interest, where again you give away, you have your free value, right? You have your free value. Again, all of this value is connected to your offer, connected, we're staying on brand, staying on message. But then you can have a lead magnet, freebie, and even email, right? So another great strategy, to potentially have, if you have not considered it, is having an email list. Because again, these social media platforms are super, they're super, what's the word I'm looking for, they're super, these social media platforms are finicky, right? They can't necessarily be trusted. Algorithms change every other day. You know what I'm saying? You might have been creating content that was hitting, your audience is getting it, is getting out to new followers, and then tomorrow the algorithm changes, and now what used to was just working the day before don't work no more, right? Literally falls flat. You got a million views on the same type of content yesterday, and then today you get 3 likes, and 42 views. And you're like, yo, wait, hold on a second. Like, it just literally worked just yesterday. So less people are seeing it, less people are engaging with it. And so you now, if you, like I said before, if you allow yourself to simply be dependent on social media for your customers, and thinking that everybody's going to see your stuff, that's just not the reality. So something like an email list, or email newsletter, or something along those lines, to collect emails is a great way for you to be able to collect information, because it's a game of data. So you do want to get people's names, you want to get their email addresses, right? In some cases, depending on your offer, you may want to get their phone numbers if you're doing virtual events, or if you're doing, particularly if you're doing virtual events that that you want to send out reminders, that is when it's gonna, leading up to the launch. Like, so there are definitely situations, but nonetheless, you want their information, at least their name and email address, because if you get their name and their email address, then you can continue to communicate directly to them through your email newsletter, right? And continue to add value on the back end in their email, where is a controlled and is a direct connect to them, right? As opposed to you trying to posting content and hoping and praying that they actually see it. Right? And unfortunately, because the temporal nature of the of social media platforms, that could happen. So bottom line is, you do not want to be pigeonholed to simply the social media platform that you post on. You want to make sure that you have something. And again, this is our sales funnel, right? This is our simple funnel. You have your awareness, and then you want to also have something like a freebie, a lead magnet, an email newsletter, something along those lines that's going to help you to be able to. It's going to be a very simple step from someone just becoming aware of you. That's what Marcus used to call micro commitments. You don't want, when you don't want to try to make your audience commit too fast to something too big. You're not going to bump into somebody on the street on Friday, right? And propose to them on Saturday. That's just not what happens, right? Right? You meet them, you bump into them, you spark up a conversation with them. You know, if you, over the course of time, if you go to that same route and you continue to see that person every single day on that route, then conversation picks up, familiarity picks up, and then maybe the next step is, hey, let's exchange information. Maybe it's a phone number, maybe it's an Instagram or social media handle. Nowadays, back in the day, it was a number, but now it's a social. What's your TikTok? What's your IG? Right? And you go from there to number, what I'm saying, to potentially exchanging numbers. And then the next micro commitment is, oh, like, yo, let's connect at this coffee spot over here. We're in a neighborhood that's centralized, right? And so, slowly and systematically, you're getting you all are your relationship is evolving. And that's the same thing with our content. And this is why this funnel is so powerful, because we're not we're not asking our audience to make this huge commitment. We're simply leading with value, and giving them the opportunity to make micro commitments that are going to lead them ultimately to the altar, right? So that's what we're trying to do. So the second rung of our funnel is interest. Now, the third is consideration. All right. The third is consideration. So let me write that down. You know, and don't make fun of my handwriting either. All right. Okay. So I just went ahead and just wrote the rest of them down. All right. Can you see that? I think you can see that. All right. So our next rung is consideration. Did I spell that right? Yeah, I spelled it right. Okay. Is consideration. Now consideration is just the next micro commitment, right? So now this is what you might hear people call marketers talk about this as being the nurture stage. So once they've made that micro commitment, they have signed up for your freebie, right? They have got the lead magnet. They've become a part of your email list. Now you begin to nurture them. How do you nurture them? You nurture them with an email series, okay, where you are sending them maybe an email, maybe every day might be a little bit too much, right? You're not going to call the person every single day, so maybe you start with an email series where you're sending them, for maybe 3 weeks or so, or maybe 2 weeks, 14 days. You're sending them like an email maybe 2 to 3 times for the week, and in these emails you're talking about, you're giving them also testimonials within the emails. You're telling them more about yourself, telling them more about what they're struggling with, right? You are using this as an opportunity to tap into those pain points even that much more, right? To help them to see that, oh, you really know what they're going through. You really know the stage that they're in. You really know what they need, and you are agitating the pain points. You're still giving value, but in the emails and you're also being mindful and cognizant. You're also practicing discernment and wisdom. But within that series, you may continue to agitate their pain point, and again, state the problem that they're facing, give them some value to help them to be able to start to turn the corner, right? Give them some value that they can use that's useful to them. But not even but, and then you follow that up with the solution, bringing attention to and leveraging your solution, your product, your service as what it is that they need to solve that problem and get them out of the current place that they're in. Okay? So that is helping them again to reinforce and like, man, like, oh wow, this person knows exactly where I am. They know exactly what I am. They know exactly what I'm struggling with, right? And so the natural next step is, oh, well, they know where I am. They know what I'm going through. They know what I need. So, oh, this thing that they're telling me, this is what I need, right? Which brings us to our last rung, which is the altar, which is them purchasing our offer, our clear. This is clear call to action. This is easy checkout. We talked about it yesterday. We want to take away all of the roadblocks for them buying from us. This is why clear communication of our messaging. This is why um, clear communication is super key. Clear call to action is super key, right? And we want to make sure that they have no problems and they run into no snags purchasing our offer. Okay, because once they have gotten to this particular point, once they've gotten to the purchase offer, checkmate. You've built no like and trust. You haven't skipped steps. You stuck to the process. Your freebie, your free content, your awareness content was hitting. your freebie, your free value, whether that was a lead magnet, whether that was, whatever your lead magnet happened to be, that was hitting. So they got value out of your awareness content. They got value out of your freebie content. Then you get them in your ecosystem. You're sending them emails that are continuing to speak to their need, continuing to identify their problem, continuing to hit on that nerve that that got them to where they are in your funnel in the first place. All right. And then you're and on the flip side of that, you're leveraging and bringing awareness to your offer and saying, hey, this is the solution to the problem that you're facing. And boom, they're out to alter. But every single, you didn't skip steps, and you invited them into small incremental micro commitments along the way. And now you have them at the altar. Congratulations. Congratulations, right? Congratulations. So this is the simple sales funnel. So where can you have, there are a multitude of there's a multitude of platforms that you can build out these sales funnels in, right? Your content, of course, the first part of your funnel is social media, because that's where you're getting a lot of your traffic, right? Whether if that's organic content or if that's paid content, whatever that happens to be, that is your first line of awareness, right? So that goes up there with that awareness. There are so many different platforms. You have Kajabi, you have Kartra, you have I use Go High Level to create my sales funnels. You even have like Gumroad, and you have Pensight. You have these other platforms that they don't have full on sales funnels, but if you use them properly, you can create. I believe Pensight does allow you to create a funnel within their platform. If you're like, man, I don't even know where to start. I get it. I mean, CRMs, these CRMs, like Kajabi, Go High Level, they do require it's like a monthly subscription type of situation. You also have the option to go to like a Fiverr or an Upwork. You have marketers, who freelance marketers that are on these particular platforms that could build out funnels for you as well. If you have a very simple funnel, you could probably find someone who could build it out for you. But you have to bring the idea to them now. You have to know what it is that you're talking about and know what it is that you want to ask them for. You can even go to ChatGPT for real. You can go to ChatGPT and you can tell ChatGPT what you're trying to do, what it is you accomplish, your offer, the content strategy, etc., and say, hey, look, I need to build out a very simple sales funnel that's going to move folks from followers to customers based upon what I offer, based upon this information here. What should I do? What platform should I use? Whatever have you. And ChatGPT, or Gemini, or Claude, whatever the AI platform that you use, it will give you a very, based upon the input, based upon what you give it should give you a very clear and comprehensive framework that you can use to build out a very simple funnel. All right. So, but I say all to say that you can do this. It may sound complicated, but it's not, right? And if we followed all of the steps prior to, if you've been tapped into the lives, if you've created clear messaging, your target audience, you have come up with a strategy and content pillars and posting strategy and calendar that helps you to be consistent. All of this stuff here is going to take care of itself, right? Because all of that stuff is going to get your awareness down. We talked about over the last two lives how you can create an offer, right? How you can create. I told you, I gave you a couple of examples of freebies that you can actually create. You can create a PDF, use some templates. You can create a quick little ebook guide. There's a couple of different things that you can do, and all of this stuff, to be honest, you could do this in AI as well, right? and it can spit it out for you really quickly, and then you can go to a Canva and get it done, or you can submit the transcript to somebody on Fiverr and Upwork, and they can create the artwork for you quickly, right? All of these things can be turned around very, very fast. This stuff doesn't have to take months or years like it used to, right? Now you could literally create a little e-guide, right, in a Word document, talk it out, or talk it out with AI, put that thing together, go to Fiverr, get somebody, pay somebody $30 or something like that to create a actual PDF, put the artwork to it, and create a formatted PDF of your e-guide, and literally have that thing turned over in a day or two, and you can then offer that as a freebie, right? And so that will take care of not the consideration, but the second rung, which was the interest, right? So all of these things, you can literally create a sales funnel, a very simple sales funnel, in a day or two, maybe three, right? And you can continue to run that funnel. You can run that funnel up, right? And then and it doesn't have to, you don't have to have $1 million offer at the end of it. You can have like I said, you can have a $7, $27, $40, $100 offer at the end, right? Micro commitments, and then you build from there, right? But we keeping it super simple. So here's our funnel mapper. Okay, boom. So our final step. So map out your simple funnel. What free content attracts your ideal audience? What freebie is going to capture their email, right? What how do you nurture them? All right, and what's your offer? Okay, I would say I listed out this way, but I would actually say you can reverse engineer it as well, right? So what I'm saying is that you can have your offer. Okay, what is your offer, right? Because we talked about in a couple lives before, get your offer, and then based on your offer, you can then ask, reverse engineer, and ask yourself these questions, right? So based upon your offer, because what you're going to be doing is you're going to be taking pieces of that offer, and that is going to be what you're going to be using for your content, because everything is going to want to be in alignment, right? So once you have composed your offer, which is simply you creating a solution to one problem, just one. What is your audience's greatest problem, and you creating a solution for that problem, whether that's in a mini course, whether that's in a master class, whether that's in a virtual event, or in-person event, whatever that happens to be. If that's your offer, and you're going to be able to solve a big problem for them, at one problem, then you package that in an offer, and then you begin to create free content that is a piece or a sampling of that offer, right? Your freebie is going to be in direct alignment. You're going to take another piece out of that offer, and you're going to create a freebie out of it. Okay, then and that's going to be your interest, and then in the consideration where you're nurturing them, where you're nurturing them to and leveraging your offer as the solution to their problem. The email sequence that you're going to create, again, is going to be derived from the or exposing the problem, or exposing the pain of them that they're going through, while leveraging your ultimate offer as a solution to that problem. Okay, and that's how you do it. So you can reverse engineer this. So start with your offer, and then you can then create your the you can then plug in the pieces of your sales funnel after you know what your offer is. Okay, so if you're ready for that, I want you to drop funnel mapper done in the comments, man. Let me know that you're about that life. If you ain't about that life, I dig it. But if you are about that life, I want to hear about it. All right. So here we are. Prayerfully, you receive some value out of this. Let me go ahead and pray over you, pray over your funnel, pray over your business today, and I'm gonna give you the rest of your day. Father God, we thank you so very much for the blessings of this beautiful day. I thank you for my brothers, my sisters on the other end of this live. Thank you for their businesses, Lord. I thank you for this, for the product or the services or the solutions that you have, or that's the solutions that you have given them to solve the problem of their ideal audience. As we talked about today, putting together a simple sales funnel, moving people from customer to excuse me, from content to customer. Lord, I pray that they will implement these simple steps, that they will be able to create a sales funnel and I pray that you will bless it. I pray that it will, that the response, that the response to their content will be such that it will pique the interest, and I pray that their messaging will be so clear that it will invite their audience into micro commitments that will ultimately get them to the altar, which is their offer. Because ultimately they have something. They have, their offer is going to solve a problem that is going to help transform the individual who purchases their offer. So I'm praying that you will give them clarity, that you will give them creativity, that you will give them strategy, Lord. And I pray that they will execute, that you will give them the strength and the confidence to execute on that strategy so they can see the fruit and they can see the result of their labor. I'm praying for their families. I'm praying for their finances. I'm praying for their businesses. I'm praying that you will do exceedingly and abundantly more than they can ask, think, or imagine. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right, family. Appreciate you. And we're going to see you tomorrow. Peace.